There are two gentlemen in the league right now. One currently in Minnesota, and one currently in Philadelphia. That's Julius Randle and that's Quentin Grimes, who have been, the players to watch over the last week or so. Let's start with the Timberwolves. BJ and I spoke about this a little bit last week. But, Scott, you brought Julius over to New York. Obviously, after you left, he moved on to the Timberwolves. But the Timberwolves have really started to figure things out. And I don't know if people
Yes.
have realized the Timberwolves now, over the past month plus, they're looking like a legit team. They took a while to get things clicking at the
Mhm.
start of the season. But now, with Julius Randle in the lineup, they're looking like they could actually be a serious threat in the postseason. What have you seen from Julius and the Timberwolves over the last recent stretch of play?
Well, you guys hit it on the head. The Timberwolves are playing great. Had a tough loss last night. Underman Indiana came in there and got them. Another one of my guys, Obi Toppin,
Scott, you created a
had a
monster.
huge night. Yeah, yeah, had a huge night last night. I mean, he
The
couldn't
three he
miss.
hit to win that game.
Oh yeah, but before he hit that three, he hit three other threes to give him a lead.
Yeah,
So
that's
he
right.
showed up big time in crunch time yesterday. Played 41 minutes with shoes. But back to Minnesota. Look, I got a chance to spend a little time with this team early in the year, and I know what they're made of. And I know what Julius Randle's made of. Didn't get a chance to work with Dante DiVincenzo in New York, but always liked his game, studied him from afar, and I knew that he brought toughness as well. And what you're seeing now is just two guys who have spent the entire season trying to figure out how they could best help this team become championship contenders because that's all they're really focused on is winning. See, that's the misconception I think about a guy like Julius Randle. People because his game was a little ball dominant and he scored a lot for the Knicks during his time there with the Knicks, but underneath it all, Julius Randle wants to win, and he will do whatever is asked of him if he knows that's going to help the team win. And that's what he's figured out. And you never want to see a guy get injured, but I think right before his injury, I believe the Timberwolves had won five straight. He gets hurt, and then when he comes back, they win eight straight. So during that time off, here's what I know about a guy like Julius Randle. He really studies what's going on with his team. He's very reflective. So he watches a lot of film on himself and his teammates, and he sat there. And I think it probably gave him an opportunity to say, "Okay, this is exactly what I need to do with this ball club." He knows Anthony Edwards is the man, is the star. He has no issue with that. So he's trying to figure out how he can best help him and this organization win. And look, he's still going to get his 20 points, but Julius is an underrated passer. He's defending much more consistently now because that's being asked of him. And Julius, one thing I know about him, he never wants to be the weak link on a roster. So he's defending well. And I just think the way this team is energized right now, and BJ knows this as well. What happened in November and December, that's so far ago in history and in memory, doesn't matter now. It's how you're playing here in March and April, heading into the playoffs that really matters. And that's what makes this team dangerous because they're playing their best basketball right now. DiVincenzo has finally settled in and he's starting to shoot the ball more consistently like we know he's capable of from three, but he's also moving well off the ball. He's getting used to playing with Anthony Edwards. Anthony Edwards is getting used to play with those guys. And then I'm gonna tell you, the other guy who's really starting to step up now is Jaden Daniels, because he is really playing very well as well. Now we knew he was a great defender, but offensively he's starting to pick it up. Nas Reed, as we know, is always in the mix for six man of the year, and he's like a six starter for that team. So I like the group. They're going to be a dangerous team come playoff time. I think Chris Finch does an excellent job, he and his staff with that group. I like the environment and the camaraderie that exists there, and that can carry you a long way, especially through some difficult times, which they had a little bit early. They were really up and down. They win two, lose two, and they were around that 500 team. Now they're 10 games above it. I expect him to the schedule's softening up a little bit for him. I expect him to really head into these playoffs with a lot of momentum and a team that I think is very capable, at least getting back to the conference finals. But a lot of basketball still to be played.
BJ, how far do you see this Timberwolves team going if the playoffs were to begin today?
Well, this is not a talent issue that you see with this group. I mean, they had a couple guys that scored over 20 points last night off their bench, talking about DiVincenzo and Nas Reed. I think one had 19, the other had like 21. They have an elite player in Anthony Edwards, Julius Randle, all-star, Rudy Gobert, all-star. They have all of the pieces. Now, they've had some injuries that Scott has alluded to, and they're just trying to figure this out. It's very hard when you have this many talented players. Actually, I think it's fairly rare that a team comes together that's as talented as this group. But you can see, there's been moments during the course of the season, there's this 8-game winning streak here, and then they'll underachieve a little bit for whatever the reason may be. I like this team, and you never know when it's going to all come together, but Scott has had an opportunity to see something that the rest of us couldn't see. He's seen this team, he's watched them practice, and he kind of knows the personalities where we're just watching from afar. So, and based on what I've heard from Scott, they're very capable of putting together a stretch, especially when the playoffs. And the reason I'll say that is because I do know this about their group. They have some toughness there. DiVincenzo is a tough kid. Nas Reed, tough kid. Julius Randle, tough kid. Anthony Randle's a tough kid. They have some toughness there. So they have a chance. I would not want to play this team. I definitely wouldn't want to play this team when they have nothing to lose and feel like they have nothing to lose. I think it's much more difficult to play when you have expectations on you. But, they've been to the conference. It was the conference finals a year ago, correct?
Yep.
Yes,
They went to the conference finals.
They lost to Dallas last year.
And I like their team. I really do. I like their team. I like their team at the beginning of the year. And
Can they get back to that conference finals?
yeah, for sure. For sure they have the talent. When you have talent, you can do anything. Okay. But it has to come together for them. What they haven't had, they haven't played together all year as a group. That's been the big thing. And you never know, but they seem like they like each other. They seem to play with one another, but for whatever reason, it hasn't come together for them. And but I really think they could get back to the conference finals and beyond.
Okay, well, I look forward to seeing it. Let's talk about the other player I mentioned, Mr. Quentin Grimes. He's been over there for the Philadelphia 76ers, and they've had their struggles this season. The Mavs Sixers game the other day, a historic 20 players combined between the two teams were listed as out. If you watch the warm-ups for that game, there was 6 or 7 guys on the court in total actually warming up for it. But Quentin Grimes has taken this opportunity to show what he's capable of doing. I think he had 46 in the last game against the Rockets. Scott, what have you seen from him?
Here's what I know about Quentin Grimes. Quentin Grimes loves basketball. And any chance he gets to get out on that floor, and when he gets minutes, he's going to compete and he's going to play extremely hard. That's what I know about him. And now that he's been around the league long enough, he's starting to relax even more and understand, okay, I can get some things accomplished. He's a very good shooter from beyond the arc at 3. But what he's adding to his game now, especially with the minutes that he's getting now in Philadelphia, and he's not looking over his shoulder, worrying about when he's going to be subbed in or out of the game now because they're down on bodies. You're starting to see him being able to create a little more off the bounce than what we've seen, in prior stops in New York and Dallas, and he was just there in Detroit for a short time. So he's getting back to some of the things that he used to do in high school. One little known fact from the general public may not know about Quentin Grimes, he played point guard some in high school. So there was a time in his basketball career that he was used to having the ball in his hands more. And then, coming into the league, he was pushed more as a 2 guard, and he obviously played more 2 in college as well. But he has that in his background, and you're starting to see a little bit of that in terms of his, like, again, like I mentioned, his comfort level of putting it down a little bit on the floor, getting to the rim, finishing, more athletic than what people realize. And when he first started with us in New York, what everybody saw was his ability to defend. And there were a number of people on that New York roster who could score the basketball. But again, whatever he got in terms of minutes, he was going to try to maximize those. And so early on in his career, it was on the defensive side of the ball. So I'm happy for him. I think he's going to be in position this offseason to get a nice contract somewhere, whether it's in Philadelphia or with another team around the league that's a contending team, because Quentin Grimes is a really high character guy who's a good player on a good basketball team and the kind of professional you want in your environment. So I'm happy for him and just really intrigued to see what's going to be his next step in terms of where he ends up, whether he remains in Philly or he moves on and goes elsewhere.